clear message. It's time for her to move on. Our next guest both struggled with Lightfoot's leadership. Former 911 dispatcher Keith Thornton resigned over her lack of support for police, and reporter William Kelly sued her over her treatment of the press, and they both join me now. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining me. It's a great day in Chicago. Keith, you told me it was going to happen. I doubted you. I was wrong.
Yes, it is a great day in Chicago. Get her up out of there.
Celebration from last night into this morning, because Chicago has a change that's coming, and I truly believe that it's all based off of hope, faith, and love of what the city truly stands on, and we're just feeling it that this lady is out of here.
Yeah. William, Keith talked about the lack of support for police and the crime issue, which seems to be the central issue there. But William, she was nasty to people, nasty to the press, nasty to her staff. I think she had a double whammy working against her.
Well, thank you, Lawrence. Thank you,
Not to mention,
thank you, God.
she wouldn't answer the questions.
Whatever happened to Chicago, we are free now of Lightfoot, but it's not over yet. As you mentioned, Lightfoot trampled the rights of schools, churches, businesses. As a lifelong Chicagoan, it broke my heart to see her turn a blind eye to looting and lockdowns, or looters and carjackers. Here, as a reporter, she revoked my media credential because I was asking her real questions.
Real questions. I remember that.
Federal lawsuit, freedom of speech lawsuit. It's in federal court right now, and we're not going to stop until we get the answers to the looting, the lockdown, and Lightfoot's destruction, economic destruction of the city of Chicago.
It makes sense. I mean, we still need the answers. And Keith, who do you
She up out of there.
now that is heading to a runoff? Will change finally come to Chicago? I know there's one person in the race that once talked about defunding the police.
Yeah, well, you got that as being Brandon Johnson. I mean, he's just Mayor Lightfoot 3.0, and we're not going to do anything with this guy. Paul Vallis is your guy here. This is an individual who wants to bring back community-based policing, but not only support the police and back the police, which I stand for 1,000%. I was law enforcement, but he's also going to hold negative and bad officers accountable.
That's right.
And you got to work both ways. You got to bring the community into this. You got to bring the police, but he also wants to work with the schools, opening up those schools to high schoolers, getting some credentials to get students to be paid.
Yeah,
to open up
balance.
the lunch hour.
That's what society has been missing for a long ass time. It's balance.
Bring forth that's truly going to be competent and open and approachable to help the city move forward. And I'm so proud and honored to stand with him. Paul Vallis will be your next Chicago mayor. Now, you listen to me that time, Lawrence.
I'm listening, brother. You got
Well,
my
not so
attention.
fast. There's still a
We're gonna
runoff
get the
going on,
businesses
ain't it?
back there, because now businesses are fleeing. Who's going to stop the bleeding there?
Well, there is that is a question that might take decades to answer. I'm a mathematician, okay? I follow the numbers. Chicago political math tells me that Brandon Johnson, the votes that he got last night, you can add the majority of Lightfoot's numbers to that total, and the majority of Chuy Garcia's numbers to that total. If you get, you'll kind of get a picture of what might happen on April 4th, the date of the runoff. Chicago got a miracle last night, the miracle that we were all.
Well, it wasn't really a miracle. I mean, she been digging her grave her whole term.
God answered our prayers last night.
Yeah, he answered my prayers too. So, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining the program.
Thanks.
I mean, this was bound to happen. I mean, you look at the city of Chicago, it's out of control. Crime is off the charts. And then they pass these laws, which basically, it seems like all the laws that they pass are in favor of criminals, people who are intentionally not living a life right, taking advantage of citizens because they know the average citizen it's going to be a law-abiding one. They're going to pay their taxes, and they're going to do what they want to do. Their whole ideology is to raise their families the best they can. They work for a living, pay their taxes, and they do it. They take care of business. They do what they need to do. So all these extreme laws that are being put into place in the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago specifically they don't go in favor of regular people, regular citizens who are productive in life. It doesn't favor them at all. It doesn't favor us at all. It's completely diametrically opposed to who we are, and it's in favor of those who do the exact opposite. Those who could care less about the law, not one bit. That's why I said in a few of my videos, if you want to raise your family in a safer environment, in a prosperous environment, if you have the means, if you live in the state of Illinois and you have the means to get out, get out. If you don't quite have the means to get out right now, start making plans. Start figure out what you're good at, figure out what you can monetize, the skills that you have. If you don't currently have those skills and you're not currently able to monetize certain situations to where you can get yourself and your family out of Illinois, start working on that as soon as possible. As soon as possible, and get yourself out of that state. Because it's being run into the ground with liberal politics and making laws based on feelings and how a person looks as opposed to the merit of that person. And if that person is even capable of doing the job that you're putting them in, the position to do in the first place. And it's just rampant in the city of Chicago. It's like it's been morally corrupt for a long time. But Mayor Lightfoot didn't do anything in her tenure to try to reverse that and steer Chicago in a different direction. She made it worse. And then when anybody decides to ask her real questions, like real legitimate questions, nothing disrespectful or confrontational, just simple questions, not only does she not want to answer them, but she immediately goes on the attack of the person, whoever's asking the question. She attacks them personally in a lot of situations. She was even taking press credentials from people who are legitimate members of the media, who are grounded and are well balanced enough to ask tough questions, legitimate questions that the public wants to know. The public wants the answers to. Nothing malicious about these questions at all. Nothing. But according to Miss Lightfoot, you don't have the right to ask these kind of questions. And how dare you? You wouldn't dare ask Tucker Carlson these questions. So why are you asking me? If Tucker doesn't have to answer them, then I shouldn't either. Well, Tucker isn't the mayor of a city that's being run into the ground with crime running rampant. You got 13-year-olds carjacking people, driving reckless like it's real life version of Grand Theft Auto. And I'm not blaming video games and movies and music and all that. I'm just using that as an example. But you literally have 13-year-olds stealing cars, carjacking cars, driving reckless, crashing the cars on purpose, and then getting out and running if the police pull up, or getting out running, so they won't get caught or whatever. It's a whole thing. And the unfortunate part is when you're driving. I grew up in Chicago, You driving down the street, you see somebody driving reckless and like almost hitting somebody, and it just gives off the vibe that they could care less if they hit you or not. The first thing we always think is, oh, yeah, that car is stolen. Because 9 times out of 10, it is. But it's definitely a good thing for Chicago. Because Lori Lightfoot had to go. I mean, she literally had to go. Her tender would be remembered by a lot of virtual signaling and other forms of politics, gender politics, and wokeism, nothing of which helped the city of Chicago in a positive way. So her tender will be remembered for that, as well as those of you who are sports fans, those of you who are NFL fans, more specifically Chicago Bear fans like myself. A lot of us will remember Lori Lightfoot as the Chicago mayor that ran the Chicago Bears out of Chicago. Yes, they will be building a stadium in Arlington Heights, Illinois, breaking the 100+ year old tradition of the Bears playing in Soldier Field on the lakefront, right off of Lakeshore Drive. That tradition is quickly coming to an end, all because of an idiotic mayor who was so overly emotional and like a child throwing a temper tantrum instead of trying to negotiate in good faith. Well, they can't go anywhere. Well, this deal is final. What are they gonna do? They can't do anything. It's like she didn't even try to like negotiate in good faith. Everything was like a dick swinging contest with her, of which she actually said that in an interview once to somebody. I forgot who she was in a heated discussion with or beef with, and she literally says, well, I got the biggest dick in Chicago. Just, this is the mentality of a mayor. Thank goodness she's the former mayor, which is great for Chicago. She had to go. Her time was well done and over with. So rejoice, Chicagoans. I couldn't wait that long. I had to move the hell up out of there. But let me know what y'all think. Comment down below if you like the content. Like, share, and subscribe. Share the videos. Share them everywhere. Any and everywhere. If you want to support your boy, hit up the Cash App. $ Cobra Clutch 357. That being said, Chicagoans, rejoice. Better days are coming. Now that moron of a mayor is out of there. Bye-bye, Beetlejuice.